Hi everybody! So I'm here to give you an overview of the next assignment, which is called the iSearch paper. So this is my very favorite assignment that I've ever assigned in any history class. I really like the products that come out of it. They're always really interesting because basically I'm giving you the complete freedom to choose what your research topic is, so you can choose whatever it is you're most interested in about the long 20th century, so from the end of the Civil War until now. And I'm asking you to come up with your own direction, your own sources that you find online, and then explaining to me why you're interested in the topic, how you found the sources, and how they answered the question that you posed. So there's a couple different components that I'll just go through really briefly and give you kind of a sense of what I'm looking for with this assignment. All right, so the basics. Part one, what are you interested in researching and why? So in this part, you'll explain to me like your basic interest in the topic, what you knew about it beforehand, why you're interested in it, and then what's the question. Part two is where you're telling me how you found the primary sources you did, and then what were those sources. And then part three, how do the sources answer the research questions? So you're coming up with your own historical argument at the end. And then also, how did completing this process change your idea about historical research? This is why I like this assignment so much, is because it's asking you to reflect not only on the topic itself, but also the nature of historical research. So you're getting credit for actually doing the research part as much as you are getting credit for the writing and analyzing part. Because this really is the precursor to our assignment where I'm asking you to go into more detail about your topic through the podcast. This is kind of the back end. You're getting all the credit for doing all that historical research work. And it's fun. I think it's fun. All right, so part one, establishing the research question. So I just listed out these bullet points which tell you exactly what I'm looking for in this section. One, why are you interested in the topic? What do you know about it before starting your research? Two, what is the research question? What exactly do you want to find out more about? And I have some examples of some research questions later on in this video. And then lastly, explain how the sources you found answer the question or led you in a new direction. So a lot of times it seems like, you start out with one question, the sources you find kind of answer it, but they answer a different question. Or maybe you find out that you're maybe not as interested in the question you were when you started and you want to try something else, or you switch gears and answer a different question or formulate a different argument. That's totally fine. It's kind of the nature of historical research. So you have to sort of go with what you find. And then, so that's just a reminder, you might find that your research question actually changes over the course of your research. So part two, explaining your research process. So this is probably the most substantial part of the paper. So for this one, I want you to be really honest about what you did to find your sources. You can just say, I started with the Google search. I started by going to Wikipedia. I read a history.com article. I read some encyclopedia entries. Let me know what kind of secondary sources you're getting into, what kind of sort of overview sources you read to find out more about your topic, how that changes your how you phrase your search queries in terms of trying to find primary sources. I want to know all the steps of the process. I want to know each step. As long as you don't stop after you find, a history.com article or a Wikipedia article. Those kinds of articles are fine for background research, but they're not primary sources. I want you to find two primary sources. So establishing where you found them is really important. So where did you go after you went to those encyclopedia type websites? Did you go to the Library of Congress? Did you find a digital collection through university? Did you go to the Digital Library of America? I have some suggestions at the end of this video where you can go. So that's really what I'm looking for there. So be honest, but also be thorough. And then you're going to present an overview of two primary sources you found. So just as a reminder, primary sources are things we've been reading throughout the whole course. So it's things that are written or created under the time period in which you're studying them. So if your topic is about women's suffrage, I would expect that you would come with an article or a political cartoon or a speech or something, a letter written about women's suffrage from 1915, 1918, something where it was written in the time period in which it was which you're studying. It's not like an article that references a primary source. It is that actual primary source. So in this part, you're basically putting those skills that you've developed in writing your primary source analysis papers to work in analyzing your primary sources. just one paragraph each. So you probably have more things to say than you will say in the iSearch paper. That's fine. Taking this opportunity, when you submit it to me, I will give you back comments and say, well, maybe you could follow this thread for your podcast, giving you a little bit of guidance there so you can expand later. This paper mostly is about, this is the source, this is why I think it's relevant in a paragraph form. Then part 3, reflecting on your research question. So how did it change your understanding of the topic? And then also, what did you learn about historical research? So did you, did answering or finding the primary sources change your understanding of what you expected to find in the answer to that research question? And then did the whole research process change your opinion about history? About what it means to do historical research. Is this something new for you? Is this something that was easy? Did the sources just come up? I want to know everything. And then lastly, so the last sort of line in the paragraph should be reflecting on your research question. So how do the primary sources do you think answered that question? And then what's the argument? What are you now taking as your argument? You can go into the podcast with like this clear statement that's rooted in your historical research. So how to decide on your research question. My suggestion is start with a broad topic that you're interested in, then sort of narrow it down. There's a tricky line between being really broad and really too specific. So if your question is like, how does race define American identity? It's like, what? That was just way too much to answer in a short 4 to 6 page paper, way too much to answer in just 2 primary sources. But if you're thinking like, how did people in Little Rock, Arkansas understand race in the context of school desegregation? That's a doable question, because you could find primary sources that are legitimate, that will legitimately answer that question. So I have some sample questions in this video. These are some that were developed by students in another class of mine. And I'm just going to give you the question that they developed, and then I'll give you what I did to sort of alter or push them a little bit and changing it or making it a little more useful. So the first one is, how did women workers in textile factories participate in politics? It's a really interesting question. It's specific in that you're speaking, specifically in terms of gender, looking at specific industry, and also specific thing or activism in politics. But the politics thing is where I push them a little bit. Define politics. What exactly are they talking about? Is it about labor reforms? Is it about equal rights for women? Is it about gender politics, interacting with male bosses and union leaders? There's ways in which you can make this more specific that will help you to find more primary sources. And the second sample question I have is, how were immigrant children treated in schools / society? So this one, there's a lot of ways you can make this more specific. Immigrant children, schools and society. That's a lot. Those are some really broad topics. So I gave some suggestions here a little bit more, as you can see. So first is immigrant. So be specific about which group of immigrants. Are you talking about a country of origin? So Irish immigrants, German, Polish, Russian, etc. Are you concerned with this particular city or state? Immigrants in Milwaukee or New York City. Schools. Are you looking mostly at like the experience of children in the classroom, dealing with a different curriculum? Are you talking about language issues or maybe cultural issues as we talk about the progressive era, maybe different sort of cultural clashes? And then society, what exactly do you mean? Is it about laws and restrictions that are placed upon immigrants? Is it about reform or efforts to sort of help them adjust Americanization policies? So these are the ways that I kind of adjusted the questions a little bit to make them a little bit more specific. So first one is, what kind of reform efforts were directed towards Irish immigrant children in New York City? And then 2, how did religious and cultural backgrounds of German immigrant children affect their experiences in Milwaukee schools? So you're really kind of narrowing in on a region, a time period, a ethnic group to hone your question a little bit. So if you are worried about where to find primary sources, my best advice actually is really simple. It's just to type in your search query into Google, but include the words primary sources. And you never know what's going to come up. I mean, sometimes there's like a digital exhibit that some university has put up with a whole bunch of sources that are there. There's a lot of stuff online about the 20th century. There's a lot of stuff like video, audio recordings, photographs. All of these things would count in the primary source arena. You could also use the Google Advanced Search. tool, and I put in actually a link to a YouTube video that tells you how to do that. That will limit the actual domain names that will come up when you are doing your research, so you can limit it to like websites with edu or gov or org domain names. That'll help you sort of weed out some of the search results. And then also in the prompt, check out the links to the different library guides I posted and the different digital collection databases. You can sort of go at it like, I'll look at the collection first and then sort of develop the research question. It might be useful to do that in terms of like if you want to think about a broad topic first. So what's next? So the paper is due November 15th. You have a lot of time to think about it. I'm giving you the opportunity if you want feedback on your research question, or if you want me to sort of weigh in on this sources suggestions, because I do have a whole list of databases that students in the past have consulted, and I'm happy to share those resources with you all. Just submit your proposed question on Canvas. There's an assignment that's titled iSearch Topic. It's not a graded assignment. It's just an opportunity for you to type your question into the text box, and then I'll respond to you via Canvas, and I'll give you some feedback on how to hone your question, how to maybe some sources that I have that I can recommend. And then as soon as you know them, submit them to me. I'll answer them as we go forward in the next couple weeks, but no later than November 4th. So give you enough time to actually put the advice I give you to good use, because one of the most important things to remember is that this project cannot be completed with one Google search. One of the most common things that I get in that sort of reflect on your question paragraph is, I didn't realize how long it actually takes to do historical research. And it does. It can take a long time, especially if your question is a little tricky, or if you're looking for something specific. You can read a bunch of articles and sort of go down the rabbit hole, and you could find it at a bunch of different sources, or you could have trouble finding any. You can't leave it to the last minute. So give yourself enough time to go through the process without feeling too stressed about it. And then you're responsible for then writing this paper. It's about 4 to 6 pages. My max limit is flexible. If you go over 6 pages, it's not a big deal. I want you to at least hit that 4-page mark. All right. So check out the prompt. That's all of the stuff I just went over is very detailed in that prompt. Let me know if you have any questions. Submit your questions to me via Canvas, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what y'all are interested in researching. Okay, bye.